How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel. What we're talking about today is my top 5 essential tips for massive weight loss as a beginner. Having lost 50 kgs in 8 months myself, which I think is around 110 pounds, I feel like there are a few things that I implemented very early on in that process that made it a little bit easier for me. And that's sort of something that you also need to try and figure out for yourself. So I can give you these tips, but in terms of implementing them, you sort of need to do it in a way that fits within your lifestyle and that works for you. Let's get stuck into these top 5. None of these are going to be in a specific order other than the last tip I'm going to give you, which sort of ties everything together. That made me sort of see out the process and be able to keep the weight off for so long, because essentially I've probably kept the weight off for about 9 years now. I'm not saying I'm some kind of bodybuilder or like a personal trainer or anything like that. I just managed to lose a lot of weight and I've kept it off, and I never went to a gym. I did this all at home, and I just researched things and started extremely small and built on it over time. Okay, so one of the first things I remember doing, upping my hydration. And what I mean by that is actually starting to consume water, because as a big person, I was used to, from a very young age up until I decided to lose weight, I was always drinking fizzy drinks. I was drinking, fruit juice and all these different things that were loaded with sugar. And drinking your calories is one of the worst mistakes you can make, and I'm sure you've heard that all over YouTube, and it's very, very true. Okay, so I think it's very important that very early on in your weight loss journey, that you commit and you decide that you are going to drink water, and that you make an effort, to make it happen every day, and you're going to have to see it out. Okay, nobody's going to do this for you. I can give you the tip, but you're going to have to implement it and see what properly fits into your life. Okay, so hydration. I think I had a big problem with sugary drinks, and that obviously had a big impact on my weight, because I was not doing any exercise. I was just sitting around feeling lazy and lethargic, drinking all this stuff and eating a bunch of junk. I would say in the beginning I was drinking about maybe 2 liters of water a day. I was just drinking my water periodically through the day. Okay, and it kind of helps with satiation a little bit, so you don't feel as hungry, because obviously you're dropping your calories while you're losing weight. I think what was very effective for me was training and eating properly. So if you combine those two together and you're hydrating yourself properly, you're already on the right track there. Okay, so to start off, I drank about 2 liters of water a day. Whenever I was feeling a little bit hungry in between meals, I would just drink a bit of water. I also read somewhere that if you feel hungry, just wait 20 minutes and see if you still feel hungry after that. Sometimes you're not really even hungry. It's just your mind, you're bored. You're so used to eating all the time that it's your natural instinct to go towards trying to eat something. Rather just have a bit of water, wait it out. And you're going to have a little bit of willpower to do this. Okay, if you're serious about losing weight, and you really, really want to do it, then you're going to have to get used to the fact that water is going to be part of your daily routine now. For you, it helped my skin improve. It has a lot of benefits. I'm not going to go into everything because I really don't want to make the video too long. If I glance down, I'm just looking at my notes a little bit, because I'm new to making videos. I'm not the most comfortable in front of the camera, but I really want to do this, and I really want to help anybody that might need it out there. Okay, so number 2, obviously your diet is going to be very important. I had to change my diet pretty drastically when I started, and I just sat down for a little while and just thought about what I was eating and what I could start cutting out, what I could change, and how I could make it easy for myself so that I don't give up too easily. Because that was the main thing throughout all of these tips, is to make the process easier for yourself, okay? Something that fits within your lifestyle and that you're easily able to maintain. So I knew for a fact that I had a big issue with carbs. Like, I used to eat bread all the time, breakfast, lunch and dinner, always had to have bread included at every meal. So that's one of the first things I sort of started reducing. I didn't immediately cut it out, but I did change from white bread to brown bread. I'm not sure of the technicalities in terms of if that's any much better for you or not, but with that change I also made sure that I wasn't consuming the same amount of bread, or I wasn't relying as heavily on bread as I used to. I think it's very important to start looking at the labels of the food that you used to eat, just so you get an idea of all of the kind of stuff that's in the food and how many calories you are consuming. Because one thing you will have to figure out early on is sort of what alternatives can I have, you know? So I can still eat, I can still feel satiated. I'm not making it unbearable for myself. And for me, the easiest way to do that was to find alternatives. So I would look at labels of food and, you know, instead of going for bread, I would get some veggies, you know, like mixed veggies, cook them up in the oven, roast them a little bit, start eating my protein lean. So I would eat a lot of chicken breast. I'm sure you could pretty much go with a lot of different proteins, whatever suits you. I've always been someone that enjoyed chicken, and I wasn't ever somebody that liked chicken skin or different parts of the chicken. I enjoyed chicken breast, so it was easy for me to just implement starting to eat chicken breast and to not overdo it with the sodium and all that kind of stuff. So look for alternatives. Be very careful in terms of the calories that you're consuming, especially the liquids that you're consuming. Okay, so along with water ties into diet again. Yeah, drink more water, stay away from the fizzy stuff and all of that. Even the alternatives in the beginning, I would say, if you really have to and you're used to it, then sure, go for it. But if you're drinking like 4 or 5 drinks a day, whether they're alternatives or not, that's still not good for you. Okay, you can't now make that a reliance instead of, you know, making it a habit of drinking water. So yes, if you really do want to have a Coke Zero or another drink, you know, that hasn't got a lot of calories, but it is sweet, and if it helps you, then sure, go for it. But limit yourself in terms of how many you're having here. So yes, number 2, definitely your diet. Get it under control very early on. And I guess I also just want to say, you know, I'm touching very briefly on these subjects. I can make full videos on them and go into extreme detail if that's what you guys would like. For this, it's just tips in terms of the overview of the tips. Okay, number 3, I'm gonna say timing. Okay, so when I'm talking about timing, I'm talking about timing in a few different aspects. Timing in terms of when you eat, and timing in terms of when you train. I think the biggest factor, there's a lot of different things out there telling you what time to eat and what is the best time and this and that. I've never been much of a early morning eater, so breakfast, you know, I enjoy breakfast food, but I'm not somebody that, you know, is going to wake up at 7 o'clock and immediately feel like eating. I would normally start eating later in the day. And, you know, thinking back, I do know that, you know, being a big guy and not really eating that much during the day would lead to me overeating in the evenings, and that was one of my big problems, was eating a lot at night. So I would be at work all day, there wouldn't always be a lot of time to be eating anyway, and I would get home super hungry and then just want to demolish everything in sight, you know. And another thing I had a problem with is, you know, eating at night before I go to bed. And I feel like that's one of the worst things you can do, because you're not filling your stomach up with food and you're not moving or doing anything. You're just lying in your bed now, and that food is just turning into fat, basically. So Again, I'm just talking about things that worked for me. I'm not a professional in any sense, but I know personally I had a problem with eating late at night, and I immediately made a rule of not eating after 8 p.m. Because I knew that I used to eat the bulk of my junk food, you know, just before I go to bed or a little while before then. And it made a huge difference when I stopped eating after 8 p.m. and had my meals periodically through the day. So typically it would be, breakfast around 10, and lunchtime I'd have a decent meal, and I'd have a little snack mid-afternoon, and I would not eat before my training. I would usually train fasted, and then I'd have my dinner after my training and shower and whatever. And that would normally be around 7 p.m. for me. So I would eat around 7 p.m. and by then 8 o'clock I would be done eating, and I would just cut it off at that point. And that's again where water came in. If I all of a sudden felt like I was hungry when I just ate, I would go back to the water and just have a little bit of that. So yes, timing in terms of when you eat is very important. Timing in terms of your training is also very important. And again, this also ties back to my last point I'm going to get to in a little bit. Timing for me in terms of training essentially means I needed to be able to train, but I needed to train at a time that was convenient and best for me. So I'm definitely not somebody that can wake up at 5 a.m. and go and have an intense workout at the gym, I like doing my training in the evenings after work. And I think it's very important that you have a set time that you put aside for your training, and that you stick to that time. This was probably one of the best decisions I made very early on, because I think people do get obsessive about this, and it leads to a lot of failures in terms of trying to lose weight. Okay, so my first decision was, when I was starting this, that I would not focus on the scale. Okay, I knew my starting weight, but through the entire year I was focusing on losing weight and training and eating properly. I was not weighing myself at all. Okay, and this worked in my favor. Also didn't go around telling everybody, at work or wherever, that I'm now going to get fit and healthy and I'm on this diet and I'm doing all of this stuff. I kept it to myself, and nobody initially had any idea what I was doing, other than seeing me drink a lot of water throughout the day. I think getting rid of the scale really helped me to focus more on my training, still getting the food in, but not worrying too much about my weight at that point, because it's still very early on in the process. I think for me, the scale's going to move up and down all the time, especially in the beginning months. And people get very, very demotivated when they're working very hard and they don't see the scale, moving down or in their favor. And I don't want you to give up. And that was one of the big things for me in terms of not giving up, was to not focus on the scale at all. The only way I sort of knew I was losing weight was by the feel of my clothing. And the biggest factor that pushed me even further to lose such a massive amount of weight so quickly was, I think it was, after about 2 months of, being very, very strict in terms of my eating and my drinking and, my training and everything like that. What really motivated me was when people at work started noticing that I was losing weight, and you sort of start hearing compliments that you've never heard your entire life. When I started hearing things like that, that was proof to me that I was on the right track and that I was doing something right, and that pushed me even more to keep going, because I knew, regardless of what I was weighing, I was losing weight. And even though it was fluctuating up and down, I wasn't focused on that. I was more focused on doing what I needed to do every day and getting through it. You know, it was very nice getting that validation and sort of feeling like, okay, whatever I'm doing, it is working. And also just feeling your clothes become looser, you know. I used to be a triple XL in shirt size, and I'm not exactly sure in terms of all the different measurements and things, but I was a 46 in my pants size, and I eventually dropped down to a 32, and I changed clothes quite a lot in that first year of my training. So that was a very good indicator to me as well, that, you know, once the clothes started getting looser and looser, I knew that the hard work was starting to pay off. And people noticing at work was just a bonus, which just pushed me even further to really pursue losing weight with all my ability and to give it everything I've got, you know. My last point is going to be, for me, the most important point of all of these, and that would be habit building. And what do I mean by habit building? It's pretty much everything I've been speaking about. Okay, so hydration. You need to sort of force yourself into these positive, good habits. At the beginning, obviously, your body's going to disagree with you, your brain is going to disagree with you, you're going to want everything that you're used to, your safe space, your comfort, but you need to break out of it. And yeah, I know I've read a few times that it takes about 21 days to build a habit. That is not exactly how it worked for me. I would say it took me between 6 to 8 weeks to properly get these habits formed and be able to stick to them. Training is very, very important to build that habit and to set aside a time that is, you know, working for you in terms of where it fits into your life. That after a day's work, that about 5:30 in the evenings, that would be my set time to start training, and I would not deviate from that time as much as I can, you know. So obviously things happen in life, and we've all got a lot of stuff going on, and you know, we are all unique and we have different situations. But for me personally, I set aside 5:30 in the evenings for my training. I would train religiously at that time, whether I wanted to or not. I would do it because that is the time I said I would do it. Okay, so build that habit as best you can, and just try from very early on to make sure that if you're doing something, be consistent, and just focus on the fact that you're building that habit. Okay, try and stick to the same time frames in terms of what you do things, so that your brain and your body gets used to the fact that now I'm doing this, at this time I'm doing that, you know, your brain gets used to these habits, and you build them over time. Yeah, it might take a little bit longer, like it might take a little bit less, but I think, you know, in terms of everything that I've said, you know, other than, you know, alternatives for your diet and stuff like that, but I mean, your diet is still important in terms of your timing, in terms of when you eat. So that's also building that habit in terms of, okay, I'm not going to eat after 8 p.m. for instance. You have to build that habit, and you need to stick to what you say to yourself. You know, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. I'm not saying I'm perfect and that I didn't fail here and there, and that, you know, everything was rosy all the time. It's not easy, especially in the beginning. To build a habit is not easy. It takes time, and you need to get your mind right in terms of being very committed to making that habit part of your daily life. Okay, if it's, you know, if losing weight is something you want to do and you want to keep that weight off for the rest of your life, then you need to make these habits of yours happen. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to say. So just to quickly touch on them again, I would say hydration is very important, timing in terms of your diet and training, not focusing too much on the scale, focus more on, you know, building that habit, training consistently and eating clean and getting your water in, and you don't really even have to worry about the scale, because after you've lost the weight, then what? Are you just going to be looking at the scale every day? It shouldn't be about the scale. It shouldn't be about losing as much weight as humanly possible. It should be more about building that habit so it's something that you can sustain. Okay, something that you can continue doing and it's not so difficult for you because you've already enforced and built that habit so strongly from the very start that it would be very difficult for you to give up. And you know, after I lost the weight and stuff, it's been a number of years. Obviously there has been ups and downs along the way, but I've always, you know, had those habits stick in my mind, and still to this day I train at the same time. I don't eat after 8 p.m. I still follow the same rules, and it's helped me keep off the weight. So yeah, guys, if you really want to, you know, do this seriously, I think these tips should really help you move into the right direction. I'm here to help. If there's anything you want to add or anything you want to ask or videos you want me to make or anything you want to know about my process that I might not have mentioned, then please do so. Know where you're coming from. I've been there my entire life. I've done it myself. I've lost the weight, and I want to give you practical, simple tips to even do this at home. You know, I never went to a gym, so you can do all of this from home. The most important thing is building those habits, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.